So I want to fast forward to today, and I want to do that by showing you what Pete Hegseth said the morning after the strike on his former place of employment, the Fox and Friends morning program on Fox News.
That was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
So Pete Hegseth confirming a central piece of the Washington Post reporting, quote, I watched it live. We knew who they were. We knew what they represented, says who they are, designated by the United States. So we've established him in the room. Post has reported it. 11 people were on the call. 2 people with direct knowledge speak to the Post. Pete Hegseth on live TV corroborates it. So I found this amazing. This is the White House spokeswoman at her briefing today.
To be clear, does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes.
To clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
Did Admiral Bradley order that second strike because there were still survivors after the initial strike?
Again, as I read for you, Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority in the law. He directed the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat of narco-terrorists to the United States was completely eliminated.
General Hertling, do you know Admiral Bradley?
We see how those who tried to lecture us for years about law and order trampled on the law once power fell into their hands, friends. The report revealed by the Washington Post is not just a military scandal, but also a document of moral collapse. A boat is hit off the coast of Trinidad, smoke billows, and 2 survivors cling to the wreckage for dear life. Under the laws of war, these people now have casualty status and are untouchable. But no, a second order comes, and those people are executed right there. Do you know what the most sickening part is? The former Fox News anchor, Pete Hegseth, now sitting in the defense secretary's chair, appeared on television the next morning and bragged about watching it live on TV as if it were a football game, saying, "We knew who they were." This is not governance, this is barbarism. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can reach more people with these facts. The White House's response to this incident is a perfect example of panic and hypocrisy. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt took the podium and shamelessly tried to shift all the blame onto Admiral Bradley by saying, "The Admiral acted within his authority. They are essentially throwing the military personnel under the bus." We've seen this scenario play out countless times before. When things go wrong, Trump never takes responsibility himself. Remember, he sacrificed everyone from Michael Cohen to former chiefs of staff. It was fine when Hegseth was playing the hero on TV, but now that there's a possibility of war crimes, they say, the Admiral gave the order. These guys' understanding of loyalty is one-sided. You protect them, and they throw you under the bus to save their own skin. Then there's the narco-terrorism label they've slapped on the incident, which falls apart no matter how you look at it. The Trump administration uses the "they're terrorists" label like a master key to violate international law. Yet experts are shouting from the rooftops, you can't smuggle cocaine with 11 people. Fentanyl doesn't come by boat from South America. But do they care about the facts? Never. Just like the fabricated lie of migrant caravans during election season, they are now trying to legitimize shooting defenseless people by creating an exaggerated threat in the middle of the sea. Hegseth's drug traffickers' rhetoric is nothing more than a cheap story concocted to cover up an unlawful execution, and this story no longer holds water. When you get into the technical details of the incident, the story they tell falls apart. Retired admirals and drug enforcement experts say it plainly. You don't make a large cocaine shipment with a crew of 11. That defies the logic of smuggling. You need empty space on that boat to carry cargo, not a crowd of tourists. Furthermore, every extra person on the boat increases the risk of capture, and the possibility of information leaks. But the Trump team is trying to make us swallow this illogical scenario, which seems to have come straight out of a Hollywood movie. Their disconnect from reality is the biggest proof of how weak and suspicious the intelligence behind the operation actually is. Then there's the infamous fentanyl lie, a true masterpiece of manipulation. The administration is trying to justify this brutal attack by exploiting one of the American people's greatest fears. Yet anyone familiar with drug trafficking routes knows that fentanyl is not transported by boat from South America. This poison is a laboratory product, and its logistics are completely different. The goal here is not to tell the truth, but to consolidate their base by pursuing a politics of fear. Just as they previously spread the lie that immigrants were invading the country, they now portray that boat in the middle of the sea as a massive threat to national security. This mocks the intelligence of the people. The most frightening thing is how the law has been turned into an arbitrary weapon. Experts' comparison to fairy dust sums up the situation perfectly. You cannot label a group as terrorists and then sprinkle a little fairy dust on them to make it legally acceptable. International waters are not the Wild West. Declaring someone a terrorist does not give you the right to execute them without trial wherever you see them, especially if they have surrendered or are wounded. If we remain silent about this, we will pave the way for them to declare anyone they dislike an enemy of the state and eliminate them tomorrow. This mindset is a far more deadly version of that dark, I am above the law attitude from the Nixon era. The honorable and professional soldiers of the American military are, unfortunately, being turned into pawns in the hands of political showmen. Our soldiers in the field are trained to be good guys, to obey the law and follow the rules. But the administration is pushing them into a terrible state of uncertainty. For months, we have been asking for the legal basis for these operations, and the only answer we get is a big, trust us, it's legal. There is no law in a state governed by the rule of law that says, trust us, my friends. This attitude forces soldiers into a terrible choice between committing war crimes or being accused of insubordination. True leadership is protecting the military, not leaving them alone in such murky waters and throwing them into the fire for the sake of political ambitions. As General Hertling rightly emphasized, in the age of technology, they don't have the luxury of saying, we don't know exactly what happened. Every shot fired with laser-guided missiles is recorded second by second. Pete Hegseth already admitted he knew everything when he brazenly declared on air, I watched it live. If what you did was legal, then bring it on. Release the footage. Stop doing things behind closed doors. Stop hiding behind your spokespeople and lay your cards on the table. But they can't do that, because those recordings probably show unarmed, wounded people being targeted unlawfully. Covering up the evidence and shifting the blame to lower-ranking personnel is not leadership, it's pure cowardice. Do you know what the most ironic and painful part is? The Defense Department's own manual of military law is very clear on this. You don't obey an order that is clearly illegal. And, ironically, the specific example given in the handbook for an openly illegal order is precisely this: opening fire on shipwrecked people at sea. We are facing an administration that violates even its own written rules and views the Constitution as a hindrance. That is why Congress must act immediately and investigate this illegality. We won't stay silent either. We'll keep shouting the truth. If you stand with democracy, the rule of law, and transparency, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Take care.